What's up?
What's up? What are we talking about today?
I don't know. I thought you were coming up with a script. You didn't come up with a script?
No, but I know you like to talk a lot, so I think we'll be okay.
Well, I guess that's true.
I'll just comment on whatever you talk about.
Well, real estate, big talk in real estate right now is interest rates going up, which is kind of ruining the party. It's kind of like the old friend that, from high school you didn't really like then, and they kind of a little scary, shows up at the college party, and now you're stuck with them, and that's rates. They keep coming back. They won't go away.
They won't go away. They kind of, they stayed pretty stable, maybe higher than people wanted, but somewhat stable. And they definitely ticked up. This market you're looking at still the same, right? If you look at data only, it still shows a big time seller's market, but kind of the feeling on the street is things just feel a little weird in some spots.
Well, I think if you go back, so there's been a rule of thumb now for about 10 years that the rates always go up in March. And that was true again here. We were February, they were ticking down. They were sort of getting into the mid fives, it looked like, and everybody assumed the Fed was going to lower the rates. And then by the end of March, it caught us up. We're back up to what, like 6.5, somewhere around there.
Yeah, and as far as the market as a whole, it's been relatively the same for a long period of time. And there's a lot of agents that got in the business, within the last 5 years or so. So I said word on the street is things feel a little different, but at the end of the day, we're responding to very little changes.
Right.
But because the market has been somewhat the same and on fire for so long, a slight change, it's making headlines.
Yeah, and they get caught up in the national news too when you talk about headlines versus regional news. And in our region, it's still absolutely a seller's market, which combined with rates popping up, that's not good news for buyers. That interest rate increase, what you're really talking about is if you used to be able to afford an $800,000 house, you might be a $750 buyer now, and that has an effect on the market both for sellers and buyers.
Yeah, time will tell. A lot of people think more inventory is coming to the market. I personally think so too, specifically in the Northeast. But there's not going to be a floodgate of new homes coming to the market.
No, new homes is not gonna bail out New York. It's really gonna be a lot of other stuff to change the market. So until that other stuff happens, you're more of the same. Like you said, the data's showing it's the same as it was in 2021 and 2022 and so on, and kind of like 2019 at this point.
Yeah, and for the agents out there, there's still business getting done. So, is it a grind? Do you have to work hard? Yeah, but that might be a good thing.
Well, agents spend way too much time worrying what the market's doing. The reality is you get paid for selling houses and helping people buy houses. The interest rate doesn't have a direct effect on that. Obviously, it's going to affect your buyers. It's going to affect the prices sellers can list at, and that's part of the equation you need to, explain to your seller. Yes, we were seeing this in the market, but a house like yours might be affected by these rates, and we need to plan for that. But if you get the listing, did it really matter to you if it sold at 800 or 750? Not a whole lot. And of course, that's, we take ownership over these transactions for our sellers. We want to get them the best they can. But the reality is agents spend way too much time worrying about things like interest rates when it's really still, does the house work for the buyer? Can they afford it? At what price can they afford it? Can you put that deal together? And from the seller's perspective, does this still, help you achieve your goal? If you could still put all that together, some of that other stuff isn't going to matter a lot to you.
It's noise. I was at a live event a couple of months ago with the guy from KCM, and he led with the news is the news and the market is the market. So at the end of the day, you're not changing any of that.
No, and I've never seen a market where everybody goes, wow, this is great. This
is great for everybody.
Market. Yeah. In 2008, 9, you had to beg buyers to buy a house. You know what the buyers were saying? I think I'm going to wait. The market just doesn't feel right. In 2020, you got a listing, it sold immediately. Agents were complaining, I had to wipe down the handrails, and we just threw out a lot of those supplies. You had to put gloves on. Agents always find a way to make it seem like you're in a difficult market. I mean, I'm 43. My entire adult life, people are saying, well, in this economy, we have to. It's been 7 different economies since I graduated college. From .com, appreciation and bursting, and then the real estate collapse. We've had so many different economies, and for 25 years, everyone's saying, well, in this economy and in this real estate market, we need to do X, Y, and Z. It's just the market. The market's the market.
And business plans don't change all that much in different markets. So the market's the market. I mean, over those years when we were working with buyers, when buyers were the one that we wanted to attract, and now sellers are the ones that obviously we want to find and get listings. The business plan between the two are not all that different. The old tactics still work, and the old business plan is the new business plan, and it's to get business in real estate. It's not reinventing the wheel. It's just doing the stuff that works consistently over time, and scaling it to the point where you're doing it every day without fail.
Well, we've been saying that for a long time, so I guess it just is what it is. There's no magic, secret sauce out there for it.
I would love for a magic pill to be there, right? You just put something online and the perfect video with these kind of words and your phone rings, but life doesn't work that way.
There was a company, they still exist. They're not super popular, ERA, and they were the ERA. People don't realize. Do you know what it stands for?
I do, but go ahead, tell me.
Electronic real estate. You know what made them the electronic real estate?
I believe it was a fax machine.
It was a fax machine. And when the fax machines first came out, it didn't have letter-sized paper. It had these rolls of paper, almost like what you get like on your CVS receipt, that kind of plasticky paper. And it would like heat imprint, and that's how it would print out your faxes. And that's what every office in the country had. And they thought this was going to be great. Sellers are just going to want to list with us because we have a way of transmitting their listing across the country. And then it was billboards, it was the internet, it was Zillow. Everybody's always had this way to make it so just you didn't have to work anymore. The business just came. But that was never true, and it never will be, because ultimately it's going to be people to people, face to face. That's where all this business really gets done.
Yeah, and it's just doing, right? You just got to do it. As you know, we started this momentum group, basically an accountability group. Again, not reinventing the wheel, right? It's a pretty vanilla accountability group that corporations and teams and businesses have been using for years. But it just helps people stay on track with the business plan they created, because that's the hard part, right? It's easy to start a business plan. It's easy to be motivated in January. But now we're in the second quarter of 2026, and how many agents out there or people in sales that committed themselves to do something at the beginning of the year, and it's starting to fizzle out, or it already has fizzled out. So, I think that's the biggest challenge in real estate for real estate salespeople is not what should I do, but following the things you kind of made it yourself, a commitment to yourself to actually do. So hopefully the momentum group in this office, it seems like it's working pretty well.
Well, and I don't think it could be understated that you really want to be part of an office where you are being held accountable. Too often agents will look at, well, I want to get my real estate license because I don't have to do anything. And that's not going to work. You can, there's plenty of places to hang your license. You're not going to make any money doing nothing. So what is it you want to do? Be intentional about what you want to do, and then have a structure to make sure that happens. And that momentum group's been a really good way to do that.
So that is an accountability group that we're part of. I'm in another one as well. And I realized over the last year or so is when you have those weekly accountability meetings, the weeks go so fast.
They do.
And it feels like maybe you don't accomplish all those commitments that you set yourself out to do. But net, after that week, you look back and you say, maybe I fell short, but holy cow, I did so much more than I probably would have without that group. So, the weekly accountability groups, just holding yourself accountable and having some, either teammates, family members, children to check in with you next week, it does make a world of difference. And again, it's nothing, it's not rocket surgery, as Kirk used to say.
Yeah. So, one of the things I've been doing is watching or listening to podcasts too, more of that. And why don't you tell me, what podcasts have you been watching? What you have any good recommendations for me? Because I've been listening to Joe Rogan, but that's one. What else should I be listening to? What are you liking out there?
So it's really interesting. I am in sales, of course, and sports, New York sports is like, everyone talks about it all the time. So I'm actually getting my reps in on the Fan to try to learn as much as I can about current, sports. I find it impossible to keep up with baseball because there's so many damn teams and so many
So,
players.
so many games.
There's so many
It's just
games.
another game every day.
New York was pretty exciting on the college basketball level,
Mm.
which is unfortunately over now. So I've been listening to the fan quite a bit, and I'm doing it as, getting some knowledge for just conversations with people.
Are you listening on AM radio? Or are you listening on that app and kind of podcast style?
AM radio, baby.
Me too. I always feel old because I got the AM radio now. Dominic, the 12-year-old, is as soon as he gets in my car, he's putting on AM radio. He wants to listen to the fan. I go in his room at night when he's going to sleep, and he's listening to the fan on the Alexa. It's like, man, you are a real sports nerd.
That's a good thing. There's worse things to be, and I think it's pretty cool, young kids knowing all this stuff about sports and players and statistics. I love taking my kids around and hearing what they're talking about in the background, and it's pretty cool.
Yep. So I've been listening also to just some, you go on there and you're looking at the podcast. You're like, oh, here's something about business, but some of them are terrible. I hope ours is better than most of those.
Yeah, I find if I hear a speaker, like if Rogan has somebody on that sounds pretty cool and I enjoyed the podcast, I'll search them and see what other podcasts that they've been on. And then, you can find different podcasts from that. But I haven't really been listening all that much recently.
I got to branch out because the Joe Rogan one, man, that could weigh on your mental health, some of these conversations.
Some of the topics are deep, for sure.
This is awful. I don't want to do it anymore. I just had a thought. What were we going to talk about?
I don't know, lacrosse. April Fools. You got joked today.
I did. I saw that girls Lacrosse Unlimited shared that women's lacrosse, because of the higher speed of the shooting, was going to go to helmet and gloves. And I sent it to a couple people about girls lacrosse, and I said, I could see the helmet, the gloves, though. I mean, it's just going to lead to checking, and next thing you know, they're going to have shoulder pads on. It's just going to look like the boys' game. And I don't know if I have a problem with that or not, but why would you need the gloves? They're not allowed to check, and they got all hot about it. They were a little more into girls lacrosse, and
well, they check. Just not.
Well, they're not supposed to. Yeah, I guess stick. It is a little different. You know it better than me. I better learn fast. She'll be on a team next year.
You got plenty of time. It's not till 3rd or 4th grade you got to learn the rules.
Okay,
in my opinion.
But it took me about 2 hours, and I don't know what clicked. But I was like, oh, that had to be fake. It's April Fool's Day.
So I forgot it was April Fool's Day until you sent that. But when you see something that just doesn't sit right, it might not be true. What do you usually do? I Google. I put it in, and then I hit the news button and see. And there was no other reports.
Yeah, so you smelled it out early.
Anyways, yeah, neck deep in lacrosse, neck deep in sports.
Well, the weather finally broke a little bit, so it feels like lacrosse season the last couple of days, which is nice because when you're out in a spring sports are stupid because they're not in the spring.
They start early.
They start in the winter. It's winter, and if it's 30 degrees outside, I don't care what season it is. It's winter, and you finally get some nice days. This week was pretty warm, and your practice is at 6 o'clock at night. So you're thinking like, oh, it's going to be great. And then you get to practice and the sweatshirt wasn't even enough. You're freezing.
Yeah.
And you're down by the water a lot of your practices. It's brutal.
I had a practice with my son at Siemens Night Park like 2 weeks ago. I think it was on a Wednesday or Thursday. I forget. And it felt like February. It was awful, awful. And I was talking to a parent. I had every intention of just waiting in the car. Sometimes I feel guilty about that, so I stand outside on purpose. And I was talking to a parent. So by the end, I needed a hot bath.
Yeah, no, we had practice last night for Dominic's travel down in, I guess it's Lido Beach, but it wasn't like where the mushrooms are. And it was pretty nice going down there, and then we get out of the car, to take the bags out and whatever, and it had to be 15 degrees colder over there, and I was glad I was dropping off and heading out.
It's kind of interesting. We're talking about our crazy schedules. Every single person, homeowners, home sellers, home buyers, have crazy schedules, and it's near impossible to do it all. But open houses is a good tool to hopefully get some of those people to pop in when it's open for 3 hours during the weekend. But open house is a big tool that we've been doing.
It is because people don't know their schedule, but they can wake up on Saturday morning and say, oh, I think we can go at 2 o'clock if we finish, if this sport finishes or church is over, we could go at 2 o'clock, and they tend to make it at whatever time they can. So by giving them that block of time is like a bullseye. You know, there's a theory in youth sports that as long as you do a good job giving the parents the calendar, the moms always figure it out. That open house becomes the calendar. It's on the calendar, and it's easier to hit that target because it's in your calendar. Whereas by trying to make an appointment with these buyers, it's like, hey, Tom, when do you want to go see this house? Are you free tonight? No, tonight, we have lacrosse tonight. Oh, what about tomorrow night? Softball. Okay, what about Thursday night? The haircuts. Like, there's always a million things, and they just need that notice. The open houses are on the weekend. Usually you have like a week's notice to put it in the calendar and try to readjust some stuff, and they figure it out.
You like how I just brought that back to real estate, right?
Well, it is real estate we talk about, or we should be.
Yeah. What else is going on?
I'm just really seeing a lot of sellers. People have really been on the sideline for a long time trying to figure out what they wanted to do, waiting for the interest rates to go down, waiting to figure out. It feels like more and more of those sellers are now ready to make their move. A lot of them are leaving the state. It's still the same story. Out of state, already have a place, or death and divorce. But there's been a lot of that stuff over the last few years. So I think we're going to be adding a lot of listings. I was talking to the photographer trying to schedule some stuff, and he was booked this week. So that's always a good sign when the photographer doesn't have availability. Doesn't help he was away for spring break too. But we're going to see more listings.
We absolutely are. For the agents out there that, are trying to get more business and trying to get listings, it starts with a mindset of abundance. You have to believe that there's business out there. One, there is, so it's not like you're trying to fool yourself, but you really got to believe it from your nose down to your toes, as Jim Weicker would say. And it starts there. Once you have that mindset, now you're going to feel more confident in executing those commitments each week and finding that next listing. But, limited beliefs, unfortunately, are holding back a lot of real estate agents. They don't believe it. And maybe it's their environment. And sometimes you need a change of environment to kind of restructure your mindset. But it starts with having that mindset of abundance. It's one of the most important things that an agent needs to do. They got to have a gut check and have a positive outlook, because homes are being sold and bought all day long.
Absolutely. So one of the things I think we forget about is that we see and experience a lot of real estate stories, and they're not always that interesting to us because it's just one more. But maybe we could run through a couple of those. So you have a listing right now that has a building permit to make it a bigger house, right? Tell us about that property. What is unique about it? What is the story there? What are we looking for? Because there was actually a Newsday article just recently about home buyers looking to do kind of what the seller has, which is instead of looking for their dream home, buyers are buying the little house, knocking it down, or adding that addition, all as part of their purchase.
Yeah, so the house in Hicksville, it's a really nice cape. It's got an updated kitchen, it shows really well, but it's a cape. So the family, had a couple of kids, and they're kind of busting at the seams. So they went through the process of filing for building permits. They needed a variance, which takes time. They got it all the way to the point that they were ready to build, and they just kind of looked at maybe having a little more yard space as well. So they were going to build that house. So it's ready to go for the new buyer to complete that project. And one of the unique things about this particular listing is, as you know, you file for a building permit. A lot of times people want to do things that are not fit the current code. So you got to get what's called a variance. So you file your building permit, you get automatically denied because it doesn't fit the guidelines. And then you have to go through this variance process. So for somebody looking to do this kind of work, it takes a period of time. What would you say, about 6 to 8 months maybe?
If you're lucky.
If you're lucky. So this new buyer could benefit from putting up that big house, that somebody wants to do, but not have to wait the 8 to 12 months in order to start building. They can start right away. So it's a little unique and a very good opportunity for a home buyer that's looking for something like that.
So I have one for you. It's past sale. I have some of the information, but people don't always share everything. So this family bought this house, regular house, nothing special, during COVID. Back when you had one family in at a time, you had to aerosol the air in between showings or whatever, all the dumb stuff we were doing. So after buying it, and it was in an area that butts up to some commercial, they have been endlessly complaining to the town about everything. The dumpster wasn't in the right spot at the restaurant. They weren't keeping the top closed. That got handled. The sidewalks, I mean, just endlessly complaining about things. And they ended up calling to complain on another neighbor. So the town went into the backyard to look over the fence to see what was going on with permission. And while there said, "What's that? What's what?" "The pool." "Oh, that was, I don't know, that's always been there." "You don't have a permit for the pool." So here they are trying to rat on the neighbor, and now they cause themselves a little bit of a headache. So they're going on and on with the town saying, "No, the pool was always there. The pool was always there."
That doesn't mean it's legal.
Doesn't mean it's legal. It's kind of too bad, but, you do feel bad. Well, how'd you buy it without knowing this? Well, the town inspector went back to and these people felt like, well, you're only doing this because we complained, so now you're giving us a hard time. The town inspector went back to the listing photos. Guess what was not in that backyard?
A pool.
There was not a pool in the
Wow.
backyard. So whatever sort of goodwill and, tolerance that the town inspector was trying to, not crush him, but like, I can't have an illegal pool that I know about. What if somebody would have drowned in it, get hurt? It breaks and the water goes into the neighbor's yard. But now you lied too. So that's they got no help at that point. It was kind of like, here's the deal. You got a violation. Good luck.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting. That's a good story.
Yeah.
Not for the guy, though, unfortunately.
No, but at the same time, they have the pool and they'll get a permit. It's not
Yeah.
really that. It's not that hard. I don't know why, especially above ground pools. I do know why, but you just think, just get the permit. I'm not a big permit person, but that's an easy one to get. It's not so hard. It's like a shed. Just go get the permit.
Yeah.
They don't want to spend the money on the survey, I think, is what it usually comes down to.
Good stuff.
All right, where you like eating out? Any good restaurants lately? Any good food experiences locally?
Not really, to be honest with you. I haven't really been eating out. I've been trying to eat a little healthier.
Where do you like food shopping?
I don't like food shopping.
Neither does my wife. Steph likes to go to Walmart.com and have all the staples delivered: the eggs, the milk, the basics.
I find if I stock up, the kids just raid the place. So you kind of have to go. I always was confused. My mom and dad, mom always went for dinner the day of. It was probably because we did the same thing.
Right.
But yeah, I go to IGA in Massapequa Park. It's pretty convenient.
That's convenient.
So yeah, I get what I need pretty much when I need it.
We just did the family special. We had some people over in between all the sports. Another family was there, and we ordered in the 317 family special. So one was a half tray of chicken cutlets, half tray of macaroni and cheese was huge, salad, tacos, chicken tacos. It was great, really good price. Kind of just like the Vico one, which we did a couple weeks ago, which was the chicken parmesan half tray, big thing of penne alla vodka, and the Caesar salad's excellent there. So they're still doing those takeout meals, which for $40 you can't beat it.
That's awesome. I went to the High Horse last week, which is upstairs from the Dark Horse in Farmingdale. Real cool setting. It's a cool place. Definitely
It's like an arcade. It's like an adult arcade, and it's like a mini Jillian's or
So
Dave & Buster's.
they brought down a lot of the arcades downstairs.
Okay.
But you could go back and forth all you want. So you could play arcades and then go back up to the High Horse.
Shows the last time I was there. They have one of the best tacos on Main Street. They have a short rib taco there. Their food is underrated. People don't realize how good the food is at Dark Horse.
And it's a very small kitchen, but they get it all done. They push it out quick.
We see the food getting delivered, and there's not a lot of room there, but nice guys. And like I said, they know how to make food. Tap Room's another. Not Tap Room. The Villager's another one that has great food that you wouldn't expect for that
kitchen.
tiny. I mean, that kitchen is the size of a coat closet.
I used to go to this Italian restaurant in Williamsburg, Brooklyn, and it got some write-ups. It was like a really, really popular restaurant on Bedford Avenue, and the kitchen was probably just as small as,
Wow.
I don't know, tiny, tiny, tiny. And the amount of stuff they pushed out, it was a cook and basically a helper,
right?
A dish guy, and it was some of the best pastas I ever ate in my life.
That's I feel like you have to be, if you're gonna be small like that, it forces you to be really, really do things on purpose, like really purposeful, like what is going to be on the menu, what can we do here? And I think it probably makes you be a little more creative and a little more honed in on exactly what you're doing.
Creative but systematic.
Systematic for
Yeah.
sure. It's very intentional. That's the word I was looking for. You have to be very intentional when you're cooking in a tiny kitchen like that.
Just like you got to be intentional with real estate activities.
That's it. Trying to bring it all back together.
All right.
Well, have a great one. Go get it. Enjoy the nice weather.
You too. Enjoy.